Life after 85. What nobody prepares you for but should. There's a strange stillness that settles into your life somewhere after 85. It's not the kind of quiet you find in nature or during a peaceful morning. It's a deeper kind of silence. The kind that comes when the rhythms of daily life have slowed down, and the voices that once filled your world are no longer there. It's not always painful. Sometimes it's even peaceful. But it's unfamiliar, and no one really tells you what to do with it. People talk about aging as if it stops at 70 or 80. That's when the advice seems to taper off. That's when the books and plans and checklists fall silent. But life doesn't stop. You're still waking up. You're still breathing. You're still thinking, remembering, wondering. You're still alive. But the landscape of your life looks nothing like it used to, and that can feel disorienting in ways that words often fail to describe. At this stage, you've likely outlived most of the people who knew you when you were young. You've seen generations rise and fall, watched the world reshape itself again and again. You've gone from phone cords to touch screens, from letters in the mailbox to messages that disappear in seconds. And somewhere in that whirlwind, the pace of your own life slowed, even stopped in places, while everything else kept racing forward. You wonder sometimes if you're still part of it all, or if the world has gently, unknowingly moved on without you. There's a loneliness in that. Not just the loneliness of being alone, but the kind that comes from feeling like you no longer belong in the very world you helped build. The kind that comes from carrying memories no one else remembers. And as your body grows slower and your mind begins to play tricks on you, you start to feel like you're quietly fading from a story that once needed you in every chapter. But here's something no one says enough. Just because life looks different now doesn't mean it matters less. Just because you move more slowly, or speak more softly, or remember things in fragments, doesn't mean you've stopped being yourself. You're still here, and that still means something. Maybe no one prepared you for this part, this quiet, unspoken season after 85. But that doesn't mean it's empty. In fact, it may be more sacred than any other. Because when everything else falls away, what's left is what's real, what's left is you, and that's still worth everything. So let's talk about it. All of it. Not the sugar-coated version, not the vague comforts, the real stuff. What it means to still be living at 85 and beyond. And what no one told you to expect, but probably should have. Because this isn't the end of your story. It's a new, quieter, deeper chapter. One no one else can write but you. There's a quiet grief in living longer than almost everyone you've loved. No one talks about it much, maybe because it's hard to put into words. But it's there. A slow, heavy ache that deepens as the years pass. You sit in your chair, in your home on your porch, and suddenly realize how many of your favorite voices are now memories. The ones you laughed with, argued with, held hands with, shared secrets with. They're gone, and you're still here. When you were younger, loss came in waves, spaced out by years and decades. But after 85, it starts to feel like a tide that never fully recedes. A neighbor, a friend from church, a sibling, your spouse. The people who once made up the fabric of your everyday life begin to vanish. And with them, the world you knew starts to dissolve too. You look around and realize that no one else remembers the street you grew up on, the way your mother folded laundry, the songs you and your brother sang in the car when you were kids. You've become the last keeper of a world that no longer exists, and that is a strange kind of burden, and an even stranger kind of honor. There are moments it feels like you're living in a museum of your own memories. The furniture, the photos, the letters in drawers. You hold on to them not because you're stuck in the past, but because they're pieces of people who made you who you are. You don't live in the past, but the past still lives in you. And sometimes the hardest part isn't losing the people. It's not being able to talk to anyone who remembers them too. It's having a memory and no one to share it with. It's telling a story and realizing halfway through that the person listening doesn't know the place, the time, or the weight it holds for you. But here's something true and tender. The world may have changed, but the imprint of what you've lived through is still alive in you. You are the story keeper now, and that matters. Even if no one else remembers, you do. And when you speak it aloud, write it down, or simply hold it in your heart, the people you've loved and the world you once knew stay alive too. You haven't been left behind. You've been entrusted with something sacred: memory. It might be painful, it might be lonely, but it's also powerful. Don't be afraid to carry it with honor. There's a moment, or maybe 100 small moments, when you realize your body doesn't belong to you the way it used to. You try to get up and your legs hesitate. You reach for something and your fingers tremble. You forget what you came into the kitchen for. You look down at your hands and don't quite recognize them anymore. People talk about aging in soft terms, slowing down, taking it easy. But the truth is, sometimes it's just hard. There's nothing poetic about struggling to tie your shoes or dreading a staircase. No one prepared you for how your body would feel like a stranger, like a version of yourself you're learning to live with rather than through. And maybe the hardest part isn't the pain, it's the dependence. It's needing help when you used to be the one offering it. It's waiting on someone to open a jar, drive you to the store, help you up. That loss of independence can feel like a slow erosion of dignity. You're still sharp, you're still you, but your body doesn't always cooperate with your spirit, and that disconnect can feel like betrayal. But here's what no one tells you. Strength doesn't always look like muscle. Sometimes it looks like grace, the grace to adapt, to accept help without shame, to keep showing up in a body that challenges you every day. And beauty, it never left you. It just moved. It's no longer in the way you walk, but in the way you persevere. It's in the way you smile when your knees ache, in the way you hold yourself when someone offers you their arm, in the quiet courage it takes to live each day, not as effortlessly as you once did, but as honestly as you can now. No one prepared you for this part, for the tightness in your hips or the way your balance feels fragile. But here you are, navigating it anyway, and that in itself is something to be proud of. Your body may move differently now. It may speak to you in aches instead of energy, but it's carried you for over 8 decades, through joy, sorrow, birth, loss, love, war, peace, years you thought you wouldn't survive. And still, it holds you, so be kind to it. Don't resent the slowness, respect the mileage. This body of yours, it's a sacred map of everywhere you've been. Treat it like the miracle it still is. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Alone is a circumstance in a quiet house, an empty chair, a calendar without appointments. But loneliness is deeper. Loneliness is emotional. And at this stage of life, it isn't just about missing people. It's about wondering whether anyone still thinks about you, whether you still matter to the people you once held so close. When you were younger, there were always people around. Kids needing breakfast, friends dropping by, co-workers calling, even strangers on the street nodding as they passed. But after 5, the world can feel distant, not because it left you, but because it no longer checks in. People say things like, "You're in our thoughts," but the phone doesn't ring. The door doesn't open. Holidays come and go with fewer faces around the table. And the hardest part isn't that people are busy, it's that they've stopped asking about your stories, your aches, your days. You begin to feel like a book no one's reading anymore. And that stings, not because you expect attention, but because deep down, you still want to be seen. This kind of loneliness is different. It's not solved by a TV in the background or a new hobby. It's the ache of feeling unseen in a life that once made you central. It's the silence after sharing a memory and realizing no one else in the room remembers that person, that place, that time. It's the subtle but painful fear that the world has moved on and you've somehow slipped out of its frame. But I want to say something important to you now. You are not irrelevant. You are not finished. Your presence, even in silence, holds weight. Your very being in this world changes it, even if they don't say it, even if they don't call, even if the world doesn't show it like it used to. There are still people who carry parts of you, in the way they speak, in the decisions they make, in the values they live out. And there are still ways you can connect. With a note, a prayer, a conversation with a stranger, a shared story, even if it's to yourself. You are not forgotten. You are not disposable. Your soul, your life, your voice, they are still needed in this world. Maybe now more than ever. Time is funny after 85. It used to feel linear, structured, predictable. But now, some days pass in minutes. Others stretch out like long hallways. A week disappears, and then a single afternoon drags on forever. It's like the clock started, spinning with a mind of its own. And memory plays its own games. Some moments from 60 years ago are clear as crystal. You remember the smell of your mother's kitchen, the exact song playing when you first danced with the one you loved, the feel of the air the day you got married or went to war, or held your child for the first time. These memories live in you like they just happened yesterday. But yesterday? That's the one you sometimes can't recall. You forget why you walked into the room. You struggle to remember what you just read. You misplace names, appointments, even words. And it can be frustrating, even frightening. You feel your mind slipping in small, almost imperceptible ways, and you wonder, am I losing myself? Let me tell you something gently. You're not. Your mind may not work the same way it used to, but that doesn't mean it's broken. It's evolving, it's organizing, it's prioritizing. Sometimes it lets go of surface-level facts to hold on to deeper truths. And yes, it can be disorienting, but it's not the whole picture of who you are. You are more than what you remember. You are more than the details you forget. Even when the timeline blurs, the meaning of your life doesn't fade. And when you feel the confusion settle in, take a breath. You're still here. You're still you. This season may require more patience with yourself. It may require grace, not just from others, but from within. Some days you'll feel sharp. Some days you'll feel cloudy. But both kinds of days are part of being human. And at 85, you have the right to live all of them with gentleness. Let memory be a friend, not a test. Let time stretch and bend if it needs to. And when a good memory comes, no matter how old, savor it. Let it wash over you like a wave of warmth. That's your soul reminding you you've lived, and you're still living. There's something you begin to realize after 85. Not in a dramatic, earth-shaking moment, but in the small, quiet spaces between what used to be and what still is. You begin to understand that there is freedom in letting go. Letting go of what you used to carry, letting go of who you used to be, letting go of what no longer serves the life you have now. It starts with the physical things, the clutter in closets, the collections you once guarded with pride, the boxes of holiday decorations you no longer unpack. At first it feels like loss, like you're giving away pieces of yourself. But then slowly, it begins to feel like breathing again. Space opens up, not just in your home, but in your soul. You also start letting go of expectations of what your life should look like at this point. You stop measuring yourself by productivity. You begin to loosen the grip on regrets. You no longer try to meet everyone else's idea of who you were or who you're supposed to be. You get honest. And that honesty, it's liberating. No one tells you that this season of life might be the most authentic of all. Because now, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to impress. You don't have to chase anything. You can finally rest in the truth of who you are. Not who you were. Not who you thought you needed to be. But who you are right now. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means making room. Room for peace. Room for beauty. Room for what actually matters. It means forgiving yourself for mistakes you made decades ago. It means no longer holding on to bitterness toward people who may not even remember what they did. It means not needing everything to be perfect, because you've lived long enough to know that perfection was never the point anyway. There's a deep joy in owning less and feeling more, in slowing down and noticing what others rush past, in not needing to hold on to everything, and discovering that nothing essential is ever truly lost. After 85, life becomes more about presence than possession. more about being than doing. And the more you release, the more you return to something you may have forgotten along the way, yourself. Life used to be full of noise, external, constant, insistent. The voices of children needing things, the buzz of the workplace, the rhythm of appointments, schedules, traffic, plans. For decades, the outside world filled your ears, filled your time, filled your thoughts. But now the volume has turned down. The house is quiet, the calendar is clear. There are fewer demands, fewer interruptions. And in that quiet, something extraordinary happens. You begin to hear your soul again. You start to notice the birds in the morning, the way the light slants across the table, the feeling in your chest when you pray, not out of habit, but out of hunger, out of connection. Your soul, once muffled by decades of distraction, starts to rise to the surface. At this stage, the spiritual part of you grows louder, not in noise, but in presence. You begin to think more about eternity than about tomorrow. You reflect not just on what you did, but on what it meant. You talk to God not as someone in the sky, but as a close friend who's walked beside you the whole way, even when you forgot he was there. You see your life differently now. The things that used to bother you, they don't seem so big. The things you used to chase, they don't seem so necessary. You find peace in small moments, in silence, in solitude that no longer feels like loneliness, but like sacred space. This is what no one tells you about the later years. They're spiritual. Not because you suddenly become religious, but because life has stripped away so much that what's left must be soul. You begin to live from that place, from within. You pray more, not because you're afraid of dying, but because you're finally unafraid to be honest. You ask deeper questions. You listen more than you speak. You feel the nearness of things, unseen, and it no longer frightens you. In fact, it comforts you. At 85 and beyond, the soul doesn't whisper anymore. It speaks, clearly, tenderly, powerfully, and when you live from that voice, you realize you are still alive, not just in breath, but in meaning. Your soul is still becoming, still listening, still growing. In the quiet, it speaks. And when you choose to listen, life begins to glow again from the inside out. There's a quiet misconception about old age, that influence fades with time. That because you're not out in the world doing the things you used to do, you've somehow stopped mattering. But nothing could be further from the truth. You may not move as fast, speak as loud, or show up in the same spaces, but you are still the light. You always were. You see, being the light has never been about your job title, your productivity, or how many people you see every day. It's about how you make others feel when they're near you. It's about the warmth in your presence, the patience in your eyes, the way you listen without judging, the way your very life, with all its years and bruises and breakthroughs, quietly teaches others how to endure, how to grow, how to love. At this stage, being the light isn't about attention. It's about transmission, the passing on of wisdom, perspective, and calm in a world that rarely slows down to notice them. Maybe your grandchildren don't say it, but they watch you. Maybe the nurse at your clinic doesn't mention it, but she feels your grace. Maybe that neighbor you wave to each morning doesn't know your name, but they feel your presence. You are the light, even if the world doesn't applaud you for it. And here's the truth. Your gentleness in old age might be someone else's lesson in kindness. Your resilience might be someone else's reason to keep going. The stories you share, even if you think they're too long or too old, might be the very wisdom someone else was searching for. Don't underestimate the power of being. Don't dismiss the value of simply showing up again and again with dignity. Even if your voice shakes, even if your memory slips, even if your hands tremble as you write the birthday card, you are still the anchor for someone else. You are still the keeper of truths that others need. You are still a light, not a spotlight, but a lantern. Steady, soft, unshakable. So speak, share, bless, smile, pray, because your life, even now, especially now, carries more impact than you may ever know. So here we are, after the years, after the changes, after the heartbreaks and the healing, after the people you've lost and the versions of yourself you've said goodbye to, after the birthdays that felt more like quiet milestones than celebrations, after the aches, the memory slips, the long stretches of silence, you're still here. And I want you to hear this clearly. That still means everything, not just something, not a footnote, not a leftover chapter in someone else's story. Everything. You are still breathing, still thinking, still loving, still becoming. The world may have slowed down around you. People may have forgotten to ask what you're feeling, what you're dreaming, what you're carrying inside. But that doesn't mean you've disappeared. That doesn't mean you've stopped mattering. This season, Life After 85, isn't the end. It's a turning inward, a softening, a distilling of who you are into something clearer, truer, more sacred. The outside world may look smaller, but your inner world has expanded. You know what matters now. You've lived long enough to see through the noise. You are not your speed. You are not your memory. You are not your productivity. You are your presence. You are your witness. You are the living evidence of a life that has weathered storms and still stands. So if today feels quiet, let it be holy. If your phone doesn't ring, listen to your soul instead. If your body resists you, thank it anyway for the long road it's walked, because you are still here, still glowing, still growing, and your presence in this world is not a mistake, not an accident, not a shadow. It's a light. It's a gift. It's a story still being written. One breath, one moment, one sacred day at a time. You've come this far. And even now, even after all that's changed, the most important truth remains: you still matter, you still belong, and you are still gloriously alive.